a column of Russian vehicles advances for an assault, oblivious to the fact that a Ukrainian Leopard tank is quietly and methodically observing them, like a true predator. As the column moves within range, the tank locks onto its target and opens precise fire. After several devastating strikes, the vehicles attempt to turn around to retreat. But look closely, they make a fatal mistake. By exposing their side armor, they become an even easier target. A single tank annihilates the majority of the enemy vehicles, halting a massive mechanized offensive in its tracks. After a series of devastating strikes, you can see the crews abandoning their vehicles and fleeing. The advance has been halted, and the destroyed vehicles are engulfed in flames. Yet, on the horizon, 2 more Russian armored vehicles emerge, attempting to break through past the Leopard. The Ukrainian tank swiftly charges onto the battlefield, decisively engaging and destroying the Russian armor. With pinpoint accuracy, the Leopard leaves no chance for the enemy vehicles, reducing them to smoldering heaps of scrap metal. The result of skilled work. Yet another failed Russian assault attempt. The crew taming and commanding this beast definitely deserves a like. If the Leopard is the beast among tanks, then mines can be considered the hedgehogs on the battlefield, with their spikes tearing apart Russian armor, as seen in the following case when a Russian IFV moves along one of the so-called roads of death. Look, several pieces of equipment have already been destroyed here, and this sector is under full fire control of the Ukrainian forces. But this does not stop the armored vehicle. It hits a mine. By inertia, the vehicle veers off to the roadside. One of the crew members abandons the vehicle and takes cover under the previously destroyed equipment. Almost immediately, the last gift from the Ukrainian forces heads straight for him. And this is far from the candy he could have enjoyed, had he not come to fight on foreign soil. Kursk. Russian military vehicles in small groups attempt to attack Ukrainian positions. However, this was an expected move. The vehicles begin to hit preset landmines. The first vehicle explodes, and the second tries to bypass it but also hits a mine. Nearby, another vehicle, loaded with ammunition, explodes. But it's impossible to mine all the paths, so drones are brought into the fight. While drones are destroying the equipment, a team with an anti-tank missile system begins firing from an ambush.
Внимание к бою!
Wheeled armored vehicles attempt to leave the battlefield, realizing that the attack has failed and their available forces are no longer sufficient. The drones prevent them from escaping and destroy the vehicles one by one. A column of heavy Russian equipment advances into an attack. Leading the formation is a massive turtle tank, clearing the path ahead, while maneuverable yet well-protected vehicles equipped with anti-drone grills provide cover from the rear. This has become a familiar tactic for them. A drone armed with a shaped charge flies toward its target. But watch closely. It calmly bypasses the tank and heads straight for a more vulnerable, lightly armored infantry vehicle positioned in the middle of the column. The first strike deals critical damage to the vehicle. Subsequent drones, though unable to completely halt the convoy, cause its crews to panic. Next, the mines set in place come into play. This intersection is fully mined, so the vehicles moving nearby are destined to meet the same fate. The drone strikes an IFV, forcing it off the road and bringing it to a halt. A subsequent drone hit ignites the IFV, turning it into a blazing torch. Look closely. The vehicle keeps moving and runs over a mine. The drone heads toward the destruction of the turtle tank. Look, the added armor increased the tank's weight and size, causing it to get stuck in what seemed like a simple obstacle for a tank. The detonation of the ammunition leaves no trace of the tank. This multiple launch rocket system, after being hit by the drone, began to detonate its munitions chaotically. Another destruction of a BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launcher, this time during a combat mission. The launcher still had shells on board and began repositioning, but the drone didn't allow it to do so. In the Kursk region, Russian forces attempted to regain their positions using IFVs with infantry. 5 soldiers disembarked and engaged in a firefight as they advanced toward the tree line. The vehicles began retreating, and almost immediately, Ukrainian forces struck them with a Javelin missile. Eventually, the assault group was eliminated, and the destroyed vehicles were left burning nearby. A remarkable 22 units of armored vehicles were involved in this assault, moving in groups of 4 at a certain distance from each other. Kamikaze drones began targeting them. After a series of strikes, the vehicles were forced to stop, just as planned. Then, from an ambush, the Stugna anti-tank guided missile system begins to deliver the final blows. Drones and missile systems are operating at full speed, but there is so much equipment and it continues to advance. Fortunately, the effective minefields help avoid catastrophe. Realizing that the assault has failed, the Russians begin to retreat. However, Ukrainian forces continue their work, destroying the equipment one after another. The massive turtle tanks managed to flee further, but were still destroyed. Russians on armored vehicles, firing as they advance, break into a village in Donetsk region. Drone operators positioned in the basements of destroyed buildings immediately begin attacking the vehicles with kamikaze drones. The immobilized and burning vehicles are abandoned by the Russians, who flee in an attempt to hide among the ruins of the buildings. Some vehicles manage to push deeper into the village, but are eventually struck by a drone, forcing them to stop. You can see about 10 soldiers scattering across the area. Based on coordinates provided by a reconnaissance drone, kamikaze drones are launched to target the approximate positions of the Russian troops. Donetsk region. Russian positions with equipment have been detected. Artillery begins its work, delivering precise strikes. Tanks positioned in the bushes near power lines were also hit by 155mm shells. All this equipment was waiting for the right moment to attempt to cut off the Ukrainian supply route. However, thanks to reconnaissance and precise artillery work, that plan is unlikely to succeed. After another failed assault, the rest of the work in destroying the equipment is carried out by relatively inexpensive yet extremely effective drones. Since the Russians were on a combat mission, the vehicles were loaded with ammunition, ensuring spectacular explosions,